Good morning, third graders. We are going to continue studying our customary units of measure to measure length, how long something is, how far away two things are. We've already talked about inches, and that inches were small, and that was the smallest unit that we have, but we could use a fractional part of an inch. We can measure to the quarter inch or the half inch, as well as a full inch. Then if we had 12 of these inches together, it made a foot. And remember, we said a foot was about the distance if you put your two thumbs together from pinky to pinky. And if you had 3 of these feet, or about the size of one football from tip to tip, you had 3 of them together, then that would be about a yard. And a yard would be if you stuck if you put your hand out to the side straight and you measured from the tip of your nose to the tip of your fingers. That would be about a yard, or 3 of those footballs lined up edge to edge. Well, those are all for measuring distances. So we have inches are the smallest unit, 12 inches together make a foot, 3 feet together make 1 yard. Well, what if you had to measure something that was really far? You would use the unit mile when you're measuring in customary units to measure distances that are large. You would use the mile. We abbreviate mile, MI, no period. Remember, the only abbreviation that gets a period is inches, okay? So the mile is a customary unit used to measure distance. If you don't already have your notebook out and open, you should pause the video and copy what you see here on the board, okay? Leaving a space here, leaving a space here. You could put this under here, leave a space between it, or leave a big space in your notebook. Mine are close together because I'm cramped for space, but you should leave plenty of space in your notebook when you copy all of this down. So pause the video. Okay, now I assume you have this all written down. Now we can talk about the rest of this. If you wanted to get an estimate, just like we said, this was about a yard, and this was about a foot, and this is about an inch. Well, if you wanted to get an idea of how far a mile is, it's about how far you can walk. Notice about. It's not an exact, it's an estimate, okay? It's not an exact. It's about how far you could walk, an average person could walk in 25 minutes. If you were walking for 25 minutes straight at a fairly comfortable pace, you would walk about a mile, okay? When if you were to drive in your car a mile, you'd get there in like probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, okay? So a mile is about 25 minutes walk. Now, if you wanted a more exact idea of what a mile equals, 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. 5,280 feet equals 1 mile. Another way you could break it down is into yards. 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. Now you just kind of have to memorize those two. I still know them from when I was in 4th grade, okay? I think I was in 5th grade because we did everything a little bit later than you do it now. You guys learned this stuff earlier. So I think I was in 5th grade when I learned it. 5,280 feet, 1,760 yards, all equal 1 mile. And remember, we use miles when we're going to measure large distances. So if you didn't pause the video before to copy this, pause the video now to copy it. Let's do a couple of practice problems. Let's look on page 264 in your textbook. Which unit, I'm looking at the top here for number 1 through 4, which unit is used to measure each? inches, feet, yard, or miles. So if you wanted to go across your town and measure the distance from one side of town to the other, would you use inches, feet, yards, or miles? Well, I don't think there's any town small enough for you to use yards, and definitely not feet, and that inches would be ridiculous. So you would use miles to measure from one side of Pequannock to the other side of Pequannock. How about the length of the room? Inches, feet, yards, or miles? Feet, good. How about the width of a quarter? The money, a quarter. Inches, good. How about the distance from Earth to the moon? Miles, good. Alrighty, let's look at 5, 6, and 7. Pick the best estimate, and then we'll talk about why. The length of a kite's string, would the best estimate be 30 inches, or 30 yards, or 30 miles? So hopefully you're looking at page 264 now. For number 5, the length of a kite's string. Well, 30 inches would be less than a yard. Okay, so 36 inches equal a yard, if you remember back to our lesson yesterday on yards. So from here to here would be smaller than that distance. Well, my kite's not going to fly very far if that's the only distance it has. The other choice is 30 yards. Okay, so now it's 30 of these. Okay, that's going to be pretty high. That's going to be 90, almost, about 90 feet. That's a good height to be up in the air. So that's in the ballpark. We can consider that one. And the last choice is 30 miles. Now remember, a mile is how long you could walk in 25 minutes. That's going to be an awful lot of string, don't you think? 30 miles worth. So probably the best estimate would be 30 yards. All right, let's look at number 7. The distance from New York to Florida. 1,200 feet, 50 miles, or 1,200 miles. Which do you think would be the best estimate? So think about it. 1,200 feet. I wish Florida was that close, right? Because that would be less than a mile, and I could go there all the time. If we look at 50 miles, it would only take me less than an hour to get there if I drove, because I could walk there. Actually, I could walk to Florida in about 50 minutes, maybe an hour, if I needed to sit and rest for a little bit, if Florida was that close to New York. So really, it's going to be more like 1,200 miles, right? Because if you drive in the car at 60 miles an hour, that means in 1 hour your car would move 60 miles in distance. So if you think how long it takes to drive to Florida, it's more like 1,200 miles, right? Because it takes hours and hours and hours to drive from New York to Florida. It takes almost an entire 24-hour day. It takes probably about, depending on where in Florida you were going, it might take you 20 hours or 18 hours to get there. All righty. Now I'm going to erase this board and we're going to do a little comparing. We're going to see whether a measurement is greater than, less than, or equal to another measurement. Now remember, we learned this already yesterday. If your measurements are not in the same units, you're going to not be able to compare them. So let's say we had to compare 600 yards and we're comparing it to 1 mile. Now remember, I erased it, but I'll write it down here. Remember, 1 mile equals 1,760 yards, or 1 mile can equal 5,280 feet. Okay? So we'll put it down here. You have it on your notebook, but I have it here now. So we have yards and we have miles. I'm going to put this in the abbreviation because I want you to get used to seeing the abbreviation MI and yards. They're not the same. So let's change the bigger one into the smaller unit. The bigger unit, miles are bigger than yards. So let's change the miles into yards. So we know that 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. Now I can compare this to this. Is 600 yards greater than, less than, equal to 1,760 yards? Right. It's less than. 600 yards is less than 1 mile. Okay. What if we did this one? How about 2 miles compared to 2,000 yards? 2,000 yards. Notice that these abbreviations do not have periods. Only inches gets periods. So, which is bigger, miles or yards? Yep, you're right. Miles are bigger. So let's change 2 miles into some number of yards. We don't know what number yet. But we know that 1 mile is 1,760. So we can do 1,760 plus 1,760. 0, 6 and 6 is 12. Write the 2, regroup the 1. 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Regroup the 1. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So 3,520 yards is what this equals. 3,520 yards. Now can I compare these two? Is 2 miles greater than, less than, or equal to 2,000 yards? That's right, greater than. So what I had to do was I had to first figure out what 1 mile equaled in yards, which we know from our notes that 1 mile equals 1,760, but we're not asked about 1 mile. We're asked about 2 miles. So we have to add a second set of yards here. 0 and 0, 6 and 6 is 12, carry the 1, 7, 14, 15, carry the 1, 1, 2, 3. So this is the same thing as 2 miles. Okay, let's try one more here. Let's try, let's do 1,000 yards compared to 1,000 feet. Well, I don't even have to convert, even though I know my yards are bigger than feet. I don't have to do the conversion. And the reason I don't is because we have the same number. If you have the same number here and here, then you just look and say, well, if I have 1,000 of these, or I have 1,000 of these, which one's longer? 1,000 yards, right? Because yards are bigger, and I have the same number. It would be just like if I had 1,000 pennies, or I had 1,000 quarters. Which is going to be more money? I have 1,000 of these and I have 1,000 of these. Well, the quarters, right? Because they're larger. It's more cents than the others, okay? Alrighty. What about if I had 5,280 feet and I'm comparing it to 1 mile? Greater than, less than, or equal to? Use your notes. Right. Equal. Because that's what 1 mile equals, 5,280 feet. Alrighty. The last thing that you would need to do is, I think that's about it. That is about it, I think. We'll do one more practice. What if I had this? Tell me, would I use feet, yards, or miles? I'm on number 15 now on 264. The length of the school bus is about 40 blanks long. School bus, 40 somethings long. Would it be 40 feet long, 40 yards long, 40 miles long? Think about a yellow school bus. Is it about 40 feet, 40 yards, or 40 miles? That's right, feet. How about Tommy walked about 4 blanks in 2 hours. 4 feet, 4 yards, or 4 miles in 2 hours? Yeah, if he's walking only 4 feet in 4 hours, in 2 hours, he's really moving like a snail. And even if he did 4 yards is only 12 feet. If it takes him 2 hours to go 12 feet across the room, I don't know. I think he's moving like a like a snail. So in that case, it would be 4 miles in those 2 hours. All right, that's it.